Hey there guys, this is Nick from Danny's Wine and Beer Supplies, and this video will be all about siphoning. If you ever made your own wine or beer before, you're going to know that siphoning is something you have to do quite a bit of, so it's important to have a siphon that's easy and convenient for you to use. On display here I got a basic siphon with just a J-tube and a hose, and a auto siphon with a hose. In the video I'll talk about a little bit about each one of them, their pros and cons, and I'll demonstrate how they're used. To begin with though, good to know about each of them is they come in different size diameters. So if you wanted a faster flowing hose or a slower flowing hose, depending on what you're using it for, if you want one for just transferring wine or beer back and forth, it's nice to have a thicker hose, it does a little faster, whereas if you're filling bottles you might want a thinner hose, so as your bottles don't overflow. Also good to know about each of them is they have equipment like a bottle filler that can be used with either one of them. The bottle filler attaches onto the end of either of the hoses, and it makes it so that it stops the flow of wine unless the bottle filler is pressed down into the bottom of the bottle, in which case it'll fill the bottle up, and when you lift it out it'll stop the flow, so to help you from overflowing your bottles. And also a shut-off clamps. These are pretty simple instruments. You just stick them onto the end of each hose, and you can just clamp them shut or open depending on whether you want the wine to flow or not. Starting with just the basic J-tube and hose. Pretty useful hose. The only thing is it's not the easiest to use all the time. There's two ways to start it from flowing. You either have to prime it first, so that you fill it up with water, and then you put it into what you're going to siphon, and then let the water flow out into one container, and hopefully that causes enough pressure to suck up the wine to keep going. And then you move it into the next container. Or the method that I prefer to use is you just suck on one end of the hose to get it started. So I'll show you how that works. You just put it in here, and then to get it started you just suck on the hose like I said. Important to know that this is obviously gravity fed, so as soon as this comes up higher than what I'm siphoning out of, the flow will completely stop. One disadvantage of using a J-tube and hose is that if you're gonna want to use a bottle filler, you can't start it just as easy like that, because as you know, the bottle filler has to go on the end of the hose, and if you put it on the end of the hose, then you can't suck from the end of the hose. Priming is your only option to get started that way. Another disadvantage of the J-tube and hose is that it's not always easy to get the flow started again. You have to suck on it every time, and the lower the volume gets in what you're siphoning from, the harder it is that gets to do. And then next we have the auto siphon with hose. You'll notice it looks almost exactly the same. You just got a J-tube and hose, but then you have this cylinder that the J-tube fits inside. So the way this works is rather than having to suck on it or prime it, all you have to do is pump it, and this creates the pressure that'll start the flow of the wine. So I'll show you how it works. Just really simply, you put it in here, put the end of the hose into what you want to siphon into, and all you got to do is give it a few pumps and it should get going. Like the J-tube and hose, this is also gravity fed, so as soon as this comes up above it'll stop flowing, but it's very easy to get going again if the flow stops, no matter what level of volume what you're siphoning out of is at, because you can just give it some pumps and you don't have to suck on it. As you can see, the auto siphon is a lot easier to use, and if you have a bottle filler on the end of it, it's also still easy to use because you just pump it, and so long as the bottle filler is pressed down into the bottle, at first the flow will start going, and then you can use it just as easy. So once again guys, this is Nick from Danny's Wine and Beer Supplies, and if you found this video helpful at all, make sure you check out our website at www.dannyswineandbeer.com. There you can find more instructional content, browse our products and services, and check out our blog.